Hello, it's me, Salty. How are we doing? Well, my camera is a little... Okay, there we go, that's better. Hello, lovely people. Hello, lovely VOD watchers. I have a special treat for VOD watchers now. I have uploaded my first YouTube video, which is a VOD. It is the first VOD from Across the Nightingale Floor, which is the first book in the series that I'm reading at the moment. So this is a kind of a trial to see how I did, and if it seems to be all good, then I'll start uploading the rest of the VODs that are in this series that I'm doing, and I'll stick them all in a playlist, and then I'll upload The Count of Monte Cristo, and probably Shogun. And yeah. So it was a combination of Kitty wanting VODs, old VODs, and I thought, well, I can't just store them and have them for friends to watch. I might as well upload them. And then I thought about doing unpublished, or what is it? Unlisted, that's it. Unlisted videos on YouTube, and then B was like, YOLO. So I'm just like, okay, fine. I think I'm a little bit sick, actually, but not sick enough not to read, not to finish off tonight's book, which is Grass for His Pillow. It is the last chapter, so it is the last streaming day this week for me, and so the last chapter, and yeah. So I'm going to upload VODs to YouTube. I'm going to cut off the very start and very end. We don't need to see that. But yeah, Kitty wanted the whole VOD because just so she could catch up on the VOD or what stuff that she might have missed aside from the story. And besides, I interrupt the story all the time, so it's not like an audio book. It's a stream. Yeah. So I was going to do it after stream, but then I remembered I've got time to do it before stream, and it worked just in time. All right. So we are very close to the end. We only have one chapter left, and in it, we've got to find out if Kaede is going to marry Lord Fujiwara. Oh my god. Cheap microphone arm, please. The springs are like... So is Kaede going to marry Lord Fujiwara? And is Kaede going to meet Takeo again? We don't know. It might be a short stream. Then again, I might start the next book. Who knows? I don't think there's anything else to go through aside from it. Updated the YouTube banner. I just threw my logo and emotes on the banner. I might throw some links on there as well. Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm just going to start reading, I think. Oh, yes. I made chicken soup. I've had it, chicken bones and bits boiling for a while. And then I just added a bit of the chicken meat that I'd cooked, and then added some salt and a tiny bit of butter and a bit of lemon juice and some corn flour to thicken it up a bit. And yeah, brilliant chicken soup. I highly recommend making your own chicken soup from chicken bones. Even like KFC bones and bits. Just chuck them all in a pot and boil the crap out of it with a bit of vinegar. Okay. Yeah. Chapter 9. The winter days crawled past. Every month, Kaede went to Lord Fujiwara's residence, stayed for a week, and recounted the story of her life at night while the snow fell, or the moon shone coldly on the frozen garden. He asked many questions and made her repeat many parts. It could be the subject of a drama, he said more than once. Maybe I should try my hand at writing such a thing. You would never be able to show it to anyone, she replied. No, the delight would be in the writing alone. I would share it with you, of course. We might have it acted once for our pleasure, and then have the actors put to death. He often made comments like this, with no trace of emotion, alarming her more and more, though she kept her fears hidden. With each retelling, her face became more mask-like, her movements more studied, as though she were endlessly acting out her life on a stage he had created as carefully as the perfectly constructed theatre where Mamoru and the other young men played their roles. During the day, he kept his promise to teach her as if she were a boy. He used men's language with her and made her speak it to him. It amused him sometimes to see her dressed in Mamoru's clothes, with her hair tied back. The role-playing exhausted her, but she learned. Fujiwara kept his other promises, having food delivered to her house and money handed over to Shizuka at the end of each visit. Kaede counted it with the same avidity with which she studied. She saw them both as equal currency for her future, giving her freedom and power. In early spring, there was a bitter snap of cold weather that froze the plum blossom on the branches. Kaede's impatience grew with the lengthening days, the increased cold and harsher frosts, followed by fresh snow, nearly drove her mad. She could feel her mind, frantic like a bird trapped inside the house, yet she did not dare share her feelings with anyone, not even Shizuka. On sunny days, she went to the stables and watched Raku, when Amano let the horses out to gallop in the water meadows. The horse often seemed to look questioningly towards the northeast, tasting the sharp wind. Soon, she promised him. Soon, we will be on our way. Soon, chat. Finally, the full moon of the third month turned and brought with it a warm wind from the south. Kaede woke to the sound of water dripping from the eaves, trickling through the garden, racing down the waterfalls. In 3 days, the snow was gone. The world lay bare and muddy, waiting to be filled with sound and colour again. I have to go away for a while, she told Fujiwara on her last visit. I have been summoned by Lord Arai to Inuyama. You will seek his permission to marry? It is something that must be discussed with him before I can make any decisions. Then I will let you go. His lips curved slightly, but the smile did not reach his eyes. For the last month, she had been making preparations, waiting for the thaw, thankful for Fujiwara's money. Within a week, she left on a cold, bright morning, the sun appearing and disappearing behind racing clouds, the wind from the east, keen and bracing. Hannah had begged to be allowed to come, and at first Kaede intended to take her. But a fear grew in her that once they were at Inuyama, Arai might keep her sister as a hostage. For the time being, Hannah was safer at home. She hardly admitted even to herself that if Takeo were at Teriyama, she might never go on to the capital. I did not want to come, and Kaede left her hostage, Mitsuru, with Shoji as a guarantee for her own safety. I knew she wasn't going to take him. She took Kondo, Amano, and 6 other men. She wanted to move quickly, always aware of how short a life might be and how precious every hour was. She put on men's garments and rode Raku. He had wintered well, hardly losing any weight, and she stepped out with an eagerness. And he stepped out with an eagerness that equalled hers. He was already shedding his winter coat, and the rough grey hair clung to her clothes. Shizuka accompanied her, along with one of the maids from the house, Minami. Shizuka had decided she would go at least as far as Teriyama, and, while Kaede went on to the capital, she would visit her grandparents' home in the mountains behind Yamagata to see her sons. Minami was a sensible and practical woman who quickly took it upon herself to supervise their meals and lodging at the inns along the road, demanding hot food and water, disputing prices, cowing innkeepers, and always getting her own way. Everyone needs someone like Minami. I won't have to worry about who'll look after you. Oh, that's Shizuka. Damn it. I thought Minami was going to talk. I won't have to worry about who'll look after you when I leave you, Shizuka said on the 3rd night, after hearing Minami scold the innkeeper for providing inferior, flea-ridden bedding. I think Minami's tongue would stop an ogre in its tracks. I'll miss you, Kaede said. I think you are my courage. I don't know how brave I can be without you. And who will tell me what is really happening beneath all the lies and the pretense? I think you can discern that well enough for yourself, Shizuka replied. Besides, Kondo will be with you. You will make a better impression on Arai without me. What should I expect from Arai? He has always taken your part. He will continue to champion you. He is generous and loyal, except when he feels he has been slighted or deceived. He is impulsive, I thought, Kaede said. Yes, to the point of rashness. He is hot in every sense of the word, passionate and stubborn. You loved him very much, Kaede said. I was only a girl. He was my first lover. I was deeply in love with him, and he must have loved me after his own fashion. He kept me with him for 14 years. I will plead with him to forgive you, Kaede exclaimed. I don't know which I fear most, his forgiveness or his rage, Shizuka admitted, thinking of Dr. Ishida and the discreet, entirely satisfactory affair they had been conducting all winter. Yeah, Shizuka, you go get some. Then maybe I should not mention you at all. It's usually better to say nothing, Shizuka agreed. Anyway, his main concern will be with your marriage and the alliances that may be made by it. I will not marry until I have secured Mariyama, Kaede replied. First he must assist me in that. But first I must see Takeo, she thought. If he is not at Teriyama, I will forget him. It will be a sign that it is not meant to be. O merciful heaven, let him be there. As the road ascended further into the mountain range, the thaw was less apparent. Drifts of unmelted snow still covered the paths in places, and often there was ice underfoot. The horses' feet were wrapped in straw, but their progress was slow, and Kaede's impatience intensified. Finally, late one afternoon, they arrived at the inn at the foot of the holy mountain, where Kaede had rested when she had first visited the temple with Lady Mariyama. Hi, Lady Dragon Chef, how are you doing? It's good to see you. I hope you're doing well. Here they would stay the night before making the final ascent the next day. Kaede slept fitfully, her mind full of the companions from her previous journey, whose names were now entered in the ledgers of the dead. Keep missing? Oh, that's okay. I've started uploading VODs to YouTube, so you'll be able to catch up if you miss anything in particular. Yeah, I've done a test upload, so we'll see how that goes. I think it's okay. She recalled the day they had ridden out together, how light-hearted everyone had seemed, while they had been planning assassination and civil war. She had known nothing of that. She had been a green girl, nursing a secret love. She felt a wave of scornful pity for that innocent, guileless self. She had changed completely, but the love had not changed. The light was paling behind the shutters, and birds were calling. The room seemed unbearably stuffy. Manami was snoring slightly. Kaede got up quietly, pulled on a quilted robe, and slid open the door to the courtyard. From behind the wall she could hear the horses stamping on their lines. She heard one of them give a whicker of recognition. The men must be up already, she thought, and heard footsteps turn through the gate. She stepped behind the shutter again. Everything was misty and indistinct in the dawn light. A figure came into the courtyard. She thought, "It's him." She thought, "It cannot be." Takeo came out of the mist towards her. She stepped onto the veranda, and, as he recognized her, she saw the look that swept across his face. She thought, with gratitude and relief, "It's all right. He's alive. He loves me." He came up onto the veranda, silently, and fell on his knees before her. She knelt too. "Sit up," she whispered. happening? He did so, and they stared at each other for several moments. She as if she would drink him in, he obliquely, not meeting her gaze. They sat awkwardly, so much between them. Takeo said finally, "I saw my horse. I knew you must be here, but I couldn't believe it. I heard you were here, in great danger, but alive." "The danger is not so great," he said. "My greatest danger is from you, that you cannot forgive me." "I can't not forgive you," she replied simply, "as long as you don't leave me again." "I was told you were to be married. I have been afraid of it all winter." "There is someone who wants to marry me, Lord Fujiwara. But we are not married yet, not even betrothed." "Then we must marry immediately. Are you here to visit the temple?" "That was my intention. Then I was to go on to Inuyama." She was studying his face. He looked older, the bones more pronounced, the mouth more determined. His hair, shorter than it had been, was not pulled back in the warrior style, but fell against his forehead, thick and glossy. I'll send men to escort you up the mountain. I'll come to the women's rooms in the temple this evening. We have so much to plan. Don't look in my eyes," he added. "I don't want you to fall asleep." "I don't mind," she replied. "Sleep rarely comes to me. Send me to sleep until this evening, then the hours will pass quickly. When I slept before, the white goddess came to me in a vision. She told me to be patient, to wait for you. I am here to thank her for it and for saving my life." "I was told you were dying," he said, and could not continue. After a few moments, he spoke with an effort. "Is Muto Shizuka with you?" "Yes." "And you have a retainer from the tribe, Kondo Kiichi?" She nodded. "They must be sent away. Leave your other men here for the time being. Do you have another woman to accompany you?" "Yes," Kaede said, "but I don't think Shizuka would do anything to harm you." Even as she spoke, she thought, "But how do I know? Can I trust Shizuka? Or Kondo, come to that? I have seen his ruthlessness." "I am under sentence of death from the tribe," Takeo said. "Therefore, any one of them is a danger to me." "Isn't it dangerous for you to be out like this?" He smiled. "I've never let anyone confine me. I like to explore places at night. I need to know the terrain, and if the Otori are planning to attack me across the border. I was on my way back when I saw Raku. He recognized me. Did you hear him?" "He has been waiting for you too," she said, and felt sorrow uncurl in her belly. "Does everyone want your death?" "They are not going to succeed. Not yet. I'll tell you why tonight." She longed for him to hold her. She could feel her body leaning towards him. In the same moment, he responded and took her in his arms. She felt his heartbeat, his lips against her neck. Then he whispered, "Someone's awake. I must go." She could hear nothing. Takeo pulled gently away from her. "Till this evening," he said. She looked at him, seeking his gaze, half hoping to be plunged into sleep, but he had gone. She cried out in alarm. There was no sign of him in the courtyard or beyond. The wind chimes rang out sharply, as if in the breath of someone passing beneath them. Her heart was pounding. Had it been his ghost that had come to her? Had she been dreaming, and what would she find when she woke? "What are you doing out here, lady?" Manami's voice was shrill with concern. "You'll catch your death of cold." Kaede pulled the robe around her. She was indeed shivering. "I could not sleep," she said slowly. "I had a dream." "Go inside. I'll send for tea." Manami stepped into her sandals and hurried away across the courtyard. Swallows darted to and from the eaves. Kaede smelled wood smoke as the fires were lit. The horses whinnied as they were fed. She heard Raku's voice as she had heard it earlier. The air was sharp, but she could smell blossom. She felt her heart swell with hope. It had not been a dream. He was here. In a few hours, they would be together. She did not want to go inside. She wanted to stay where she was, remembering his look, his touch, his smell. Manami came back, carrying a tray with tea and cups on it. She scolded Kaede again and chivied her into the room. Shizuka was getting dressed. She took one look at Kaede and exclaimed, "You've seen Takeo?" Kaede did not reply immediately. She took a cup of tea from Manami and drank it slowly. She felt she had to be careful what she said. Shizuka was from the tribe who had placed Takeo under sentence of death. She had assured Takeo that Shizuka would not harm him, but how could she be certain of that? However, she found she could not control her expression, could not stop smiling, as if the mask had cracked and fallen away. "I'm going to the temple," she said. "I must get ready. Manami will come with me. Shizuka, you may leave now to see your sons, and you can take Kondo with you." "I thought Kondo was going with you to Inuyama," Shizuka said. "I've changed my mind. He must go with you, and you must both leave at once, now." "These are Takeo's orders, I suppose," Shizuka said. "You cannot pretend to me. I know you've seen him." "I told him you would not harm him," Kaede said. "You would not?" Shizuka said sharply. "Better not to ask that. If I do not see him, I cannot harm him. But how long do you intend to stay at the temple? Don't forget, Arai is waiting for you at Inuyama." "I don't know. It all depends on Takeo." Kaede could not prevent herself from continuing. "He said we must marry. We must. We will." "You must not do anything before you have seen Arai," Shizuka said urgently. "If you marry without his approval, you will insult him. He will be deeply offended. You cannot afford to incite his enmity. He is your strongest ally. And what about Lord Fujiwara? You are as good as betrothed to him. Will you offend him too?" "I cannot marry Fujiwara," Kaede cried. "He, of all people, knows that I can marry no one but Takeo. To all other men, I bring death. but I am Takeo's life, and he is mine. That is not the way the world works, Shizuka said. Remember what Lady Maruyama told you, how easily these warlords and warriors can crush a woman if they think that you question their power over you. Fujiwara expects to marry you. He must have already consulted Arai. It is a match Arai can only be in favour of. Apart from that, Takeo has the entire tribe against him. He cannot survive. Don't look at me like that. It distresses me to hurt you. It's because I care so much for you that I must say this to you. I could swear to you never to harm him, but it would make no difference. There are hundreds out there who will try. Sooner or later one of them will succeed. No one can escape the tribe forever. You have to accept that this will be his fate. What will you do after his death, when you have insulted everyone who takes your part? You will have no hope of Maruyama, and will lose Shirakawa. Your sisters will be ruined with you. Arai is your overlord. You must go to Inuyama and accept his decision on your marriage. Otherwise you will enrage him. Believe me, I know how his mind works. Can Arai prevent the coming of spring? Kaede replied. Can he order the snow not to thaw? All men like to believe they can. Women get their own way by indulging this belief, not by opposing it. Lord Arai will learn differently, Kaede said in a low voice. Make yourself ready. You and Kondo must be gone in an hour. She turned away. Her heart was beating wildly, excitement building up in her belly, her chest, her throat. She could think of nothing other than being joined with him. The sight of him, his closeness, awoke the fever in her again. You are mad, Shizuka said. You have gone beyond reason. You are unleashing disaster on yourself and your family. As if in confirmation of Shizuka's fears, there was a sudden noise. The house groaned, the screens rattled, the wind chimes sounded as the ground shook beneath their feet. End of chapter 9. Chapter 10. Okay, this is probably the last chapter. I think I'll start the next book when I finish this one. As soon as the snow began to melt, chapter 10, from Takeo's point of view. As soon as the snow began to melt, and the thaw came, word spread like running water that I was at Terayama and was going to challenge the Otori lords for my inheritance. And like running water, first in a trickle, then in a flood, warriors began to make their way to the mountain temple. Some were masterless, but most were Otori, who recognized the legitimacy of my claim as Shigeru's heir. My story was already a legend, and I seemed to have become a hero, not only to the young men of the warrior class, but also to the farmers and villagers of the Otori domain, who had reached a state of desperation after the bitter winter, the increased taxation, and the ever harsher laws imposed by Shoichi and Masahiro, Shigeru's uncles. The air was full of the sounds of spring. The willows put on their gold-green fronds. Swallows darted over the flooded fields and crafted their nests under the eaves of the temple buildings. Every night the noise of frogs grew louder. The loud call of the rain frog, the clacking rhythm of the tree frog, the sweet tinkling of the little bell frog. Flowers bloomed in a riot along the dikes, bitter cress, buttercups, and bright pink vetch. Herons, ibis, and cranes returned to the rivers and the pools. The abbot, Matsuda Shingen, made the considerable wealth of the temple freely available to me, and with his help I spent the early weeks of spring organizing the men who came to me, equipping and arming them. Smiths and armourers appeared from Yamagata and elsewhere and set up their workshops at the foot of the holy mountain. Every day horse dealers came, hoping to make a good sale, and they usually did, for I bought all the horses I could. No matter how many men I had and how well they were armed, my main weapons would always be speed and surprise. I did not have the time or the resources to muster a huge army of foot soldiers like Arai. I had to rely on a small but swifter band of horsemen. Among the first to arrive were the Miyoshi brothers, Kaede and Gemba, with whom I had trained in Hagi. Those days when we had fought with wooden swords now seemed impossibly distant. Their appearance meant a great deal to me, far more than they suspected when they fell to their knees and begged to be allowed to join me. It meant that the best of the Otori had not forgotten Shigeru. They brought 30 men with them, and, just as welcome, news from Hagi. Shoichi and Masahiro are aware of your return, Kaede told me. He was several years older than me, and had some experience of war, having been at Yegahara at the age of 14. But they don't take it very seriously. They feel it will only take one quick skirmish to rout you. He grinned at me. I don't mean to insult you, but they formed the impression that you're something of a weakling. That's the only way they've seen me, I replied. I remembered Aida's retainer, Abe, who had thought the same thing, and had been taught differently by Chateau. That's the name of his sword. They are correct in some ways. It is true that I'm young, and know only the theory of war, not its practice, but I have right on my side, and am fulfilling Shigeru's will. People say you are touched by heaven, Gemba said. They say you have been given powers that are not of this world. We know all about that, said Kaede. Remember the fight with Yoshitomi? But he considered the powers to be from hell, not heaven. I had fought about against Masahiro's son with wooden swords. He was a better swordsman than I was then, but I had other skills that he thought cheating, and I had used them to prevent him killing me. Have they taken my house and land? I asked. I heard they intended to. Not yet, mainly because our old teacher, Ichiro, has refused to hand them over. He's made it clear he won't give in without a fight. The lords are reluctant to start a brawl with him and Shigeru's, your remaining men. It was a relief to me to know that Ichiro was still alive. I hoped he would leave soon and come to the temple where I could protect him. Since the thaw, I had been expecting him daily. Also, they are not certain of the townspeople, Gemba put in. They don't want to provoke anyone. They're afraid of an uprising. They always preferred to plot in secret, I said. They call it negotiation, Kaede said dryly. Have they tried to negotiate with you? I've heard nothing from them. Besides, there is nothing to negotiate. They were responsible for Shigeru's death. They tried to murder him in his own house, and when that failed, they handed him over to Aida. I cannot come to an agreement with them, even if they offer it. What will be your strategy? Kaede asked, narrowing his eyes. There's no way I can attack the Otori in Hagi. I'd need far greater resources than I have now. I'm thinking I must approach Arai, but I'll do nothing until Ichiro gets here. He said he would come as soon as the road was clear. Send us to Inuyama, Kaede said. Our mother's sister is married to one of Arai's retainers. We can find out if Winter has changed Arai's attitude towards you. When the time is right, I will, I promised, glad to have a way to approach Arai indirectly. I did not tell them or anyone yet what I had already decided. To go first to Kaede, wherever she was, and marry her. And then to take over the Shirakawa and Maruyama lands with her, if she would still have me, if she was not already married. With every spring day, my restlessness increased. The weather was fickle, sun one day, icy winds the next. The plum trees blossomed in a hailstorm. Even when the cherry buds started to swell, it was still cold. But there were signs of spring everywhere, especially, it seemed, in my blood. The disciplined life of the past winter had left me fitter than I had ever been, physically and mentally. Matsuda's teaching, his unfailing affection for me, the knowledge of my Otori blood, had all given me a new self-confidence. Ah yes, Takeo found out he actually is one of the Otori. His mother's side, I think. Oh no, his father. His grandmother, I think, was one of the Otori. So he's in fact Shigeru's cousin. I was less ridden by my split nature, less troubled by conflicting loyalties. I made no outward show of the restlessness that tormented me. I was learning to show nothing to the world. But at night, my thoughts turned to Kaede, and my desire followed. I longed for her, fearing that she was married to someone else and lost to me forever. When I could not sleep, I slipped from the room and left the temple, exploring the surrounding district, sometimes going as far as Yamagata. The hours of meditation, study, and training had honed all my skills. I had no fear of anyone detecting me. Makoto and I met every day to study together, but by silent agreement we did not touch each other. Our friendship had moved on to another plane, which I felt would last a lifetime. Nor did I sleep with any women. None was allowed in the temple itself. Fears of assassination kept me from the brothels, and I did not want to start another child. I often thought of Yuki. I could not stop myself passing in front of her parents' house on one moonless night late in the second month. The plum tree's blossom gleamed white in the darkness, but there were no lights within, and only one guard at the gate. I'd heard that Arai's men had ransacked the house in the autumn. Now it seemed to be deserted. Even the smell of the fermenting soybeans had faded. I thought about our child. I was sure it would be a boy, brought up by the tribe to hate me, and in all probability destined to fulfill the blind woman's prophecy. Knowing the future did not mean that I could escape it. It was part of the bitter sadness of human life. I wondered where Yuki was now, possibly in some distant, secret village north of Matsue, and I often thought about her father, Kenji. He probably would not be so far away, in one of the Muto villages in the mountains, not knowing that the secret network of the tribe's hiding places had all been revealed to me in the records that Shigeru had left, and that I had spent the winter learning it by heart. I was still not sure what I would do with this knowledge, whether I would take advantage of it to buy forgiveness and friendship from Arai, or use it myself to eradicate the secret organization that had sentenced me to death. A long time ago, Kenji had sworn to protect me as long as I lived. I discounted this promise as part of the deviousness of his nature, and I had not forgiven him for his part in Shigeru's betrayal. But I also knew that, without him, I would not have been able to carry out the work of revenge, and I could not forget that he had followed me back into the castle that night. If I could have chosen anyone's help, it would have been his, but I did not think he would ever go against the rulings of the tribe. If we met, it would be as enemies, each seeking to kill the other. Once, when I was coming home at dawn, I heard an animal's sharp panting and surprised a wolf on the path. He could smell me but not see me. I was close enough to see the bright reddish hair behind his ears, close enough to smell his breath. He snarled in fear, backed away, turned and slipped into the undergrowth. I could hear him stop and sniff again, his nose as sharp as my ears. Our worlds of the senses overlapped, mine dominated by hearing, his by smell. I wondered what it would be like to enter the wolf's wild and solitary realm. In the tribe I was known as the dog, but I preferred to think of myself like this wolf, no longer owned by anyone. I thought wolves hunted in packs. Then the morning came, when I saw my horse, Raku. It was late in the 3rd month, when the cherry blossoms were on the point of flowering. I was walking up the steep track as the sky lightened, my eyes on the mountain peaks, still snow-covered, turning pink in the sun. I saw the unfamiliar horses on their lines outside the inn. No one seemed to be up, though I heard a shutter slide open from the other side of the courtyard. My gaze drifted over the horses as it always does, and at the same time I recognized Raku's grey coat and black mane. The horse turned his head, saw me, and whinnied in delight. He had been my gift to Kaede. He was almost my only possession left after the fall of Inuyama. Could she have sold him or given him away? Or had he brought her here to me? Between the stables and the guest rooms of the inn was a small courtyard with pine trees and stone lanterns. I stepped into it. I knew someone was awake. I could hear breathing behind the shutters. I went towards the veranda, desperate to know if it was Kaede, and at the same time certain that in the next moment I would see her. She was even lovelier than I remembered. Her illness had left her thinner and frailer, but it had brought out the beauty of her bones, the slenderness of her wrists and neck. The pounding of my heart silenced the world around me. Then, realizing that for a few moments we would be alone before the inn awoke, I went and knelt before her. All too soon I heard the women wake inside the room. I took on invisibility and slipped away. I heard Kaede's gasp of fear and realized I had not yet told her about my tribe skills. There was so much we needed to talk about. Would we ever have enough time? The wind chimes rang out as I passed beneath them. I could see my horse looking for me, but he did not see me. Then my shape returned. I was striding up the hill, filled with energetic joy, as if I had drunk some magic potion. Kaede was here. She was not married. She would be mine. As I did every day, I went to the burial ground and knelt before Shigeru's grave. At this early hour, it was deserted, the light dim beneath the cedars. The sun was touching their tips. On the opposite side of the valley, the mist hung along the sides of the slopes, so the peaks seemed to be floating on foam. The waterfall kept up its ceaseless babble, echoed by the softer trickle of water flowing through the gutters and pipes into the pools and cisterns of the garden. I could hear the monks at prayer, the rise and fall of the sutras, the sudden clear peal of a bell. I was glad Shigeru dwelt in this peaceful place. I spoke to his spirit, asking for his strength and wisdom to be transferred to me. I told him what he, no doubt, already knew, that I was going to fulfill his last requests to me. And, first of all, I was going to marry Shirakawa Kaede. There was a sudden heavy shaking as the earth trembled. I was gripped by a certainty that I was doing the right thing, and also by a sense of urgency. We must marry immediately. A change in the note of the water made me turn my head. In the large pond, carp were threshing and milling just below the surface of the water, a flickering mat of red and gold. Makoto was feeding them, his face calm and serene as he watched them. Red and gold filled my eyes, the colours of good fortune, the colours of marriage. He saw me looking at him and called, "Where were you? You missed the first meal." I'll eat later." I got to my feet and went towards him. I could not keep my excitement to myself. "Lady Shirakawa is here. Will you go with Kaede and escort her to the women's guest house?" He threw the last of the millet into the water. "I will tell Kaede. I prefer not to go myself. I don't want to remind her of the pain I caused her." "Maybe you're right. Yes, tell Kaede. Let them bring her here before noon." "Why is she here?" Makoto asked, glancing sideways at me. "She came on a pilgrimage to give thanks for her recovery. But now that she is here, I intend to marry her." "Just like that?" He laughed without mirth. "Why not?" "My experience of marriages is very limited, but I believe in the case of great families, like the Shirakawa, or come to that the Otori, consent has to be given. The clan lords have to agree." "I am lord of my clan and I give my consent," I replied lightly, feeling he was raising unnecessary problems. "Your case is slightly different, but who does Lady Shirakawa obey? Her family may have other plans for her." "She has no family." I could feel anger beginning to simmer. "Don't be a fool, Takeo. Everyone has family, especially unmarried girls who are the heir to great domains." I have both legal right and moral duty to marry her, since she was betrothed to my adopted father. My tone was hotter now. It was Shigeru's express will that I should do so. Don't be angry with me, he said after a pause. I know your feelings for her. I'm only saying what everyone will tell you. She loves me too. Love has nothing to do with marriage. He shook his head, looking at me as if I were a child. Nothing's going to stop me. She is here. I will not let her slip away from me again. We will be married this week. The bell tolled from the temple. One of the older monks walked across the garden, looking disapprovingly at us. Makoto had kept his voice low throughout our exchange, but I had been talking loudly and forcefully. I must go to meditation, he said. Maybe you should too. Think about what you are doing before you act. My mind is made up. Go and meditate. I'll tell Kaede, and then I'll speak to the abbot. It was already past the time when I usually went to him every morning for 2 hours of swordsmanship. I hurried to find the Miyoshi brothers and caught up with them on their way downhill to speak to an armourer. Lady Shirakawa, Kaede said. Is it safe to go near her? Why do you say that? I demanded. No offence, Takeo, but everyone knows about her. She brings death to men. Only if they desire her, Gemba added, then taking a quick look at my face went on. That's what people say. And they also say she's so beautiful it's impossible to look at her without desiring her. Kaede looked gloomily. You're sending us to certain death. I was in no mood for their clowning, but their words brought home to me even more how essential it was that we should marry. Kaede had said that she was safe only with me, and I understood why. Only marriage to me would save her from the curse she seemed to be under. I knew that she would never be any danger to me. Other men who desired her had died, but I had joined my body to hers and lived. I was not going to explain all this to the Miyoshi brothers. Bring her to the women's guest rooms as soon as possible, I said shortly. Make sure none of her men come, and also that Kondo Kiichi and Muto Shizuka leave today. She will bring one woman with her. Treat them with the utmost courtesy. Tell her I will call on her around the hour of the monkey. Takeo is truly fearless, Gemba muttered. Lady Shirakawa is going to be my wife. That startled them. They saw I was serious and kept their mouths closed. They bowed formally to me and walked silently to the guardhouse, where they collected 5 or 6 other men. Once they were beyond the gate, they made a few jokes at my expense, not realizing that I could hear them, about the praying mantis that devours her mate. I thought about going after them to teach them a lesson, but I was already late for the abbot. Listening to their laughter fade away down the slope, I hurried to the hall where our sessions took place. He was already there, dressed in his priest's robes. I was still in the rough garb I wore on my nighttime wanderings, a sort of adaptation of the tribe's black uniform. Knee-length trousers, leggings and split-toed boots that did as well for sword fighting as for leaping up walls and running over roofs. Matsuda did not seem to be at all encumbered by his long skirts and deep sleeves. I usually finished the sessions out of breath and pouring with sweat. He remained as cool and unruffled as if he had spent those same 2 hours in prayer. I knelt before him to apologize for my lateness. He looked me up and down, a quizzical expression on his face, but said nothing, indicating the wooden pole with his head. I took it from the rack. It was dark in colour, almost black, longer than Jato and much heavier. Since I had been practicing daily with it, the muscles in my wrists and arms had increased in strength and flexibility, and I finally seemed to be over the injury to my right hand that Takeo had caused me in Inuyama. At first, the pole had felt like an obstinate horse, slugging against the bit. Little by little, I had learnt to control it until I could manipulate it as deftly as a pair of eating sticks. In practice, that precision was as necessary as in real combat, for a false move could crack a skull or crush a breastbone. We did not have enough men to risk killing or injuring each other in training. A wave of tiredness swept over me as I raised the pole into the challenge position. I had barely slept the night before and had not eaten since the evening meal. Then I thought of Kaede, saw her form as I'd seen her earlier, kneeling on the veranda. Energy flowed back into me. I realized in that split second how completely necessary she was to me. Normally I was no match for Matsuda, but something had transformed me, had taken all the elements of training and melded them into a whole, a tough, indestructible spirit that sprang from the core of my being and flowed into my sword arm. For the first time I realized I was 40 years younger than Matsuda. I saw his age, his vulnerability. I saw I had him at my mercy. I checked my attack and let the pole drop. In that instance, his staff found the unguarded space, catching me on the side of the neck with a blow that left me dizzy. Luckily, he had not struck with full force. His normally serene eyes were blazing with genuine anger. "That's to teach you a lesson," he growled. "First, not to be late, and second, not to let your softness of heart emerge while you're fighting." I opened my mouth to speak, but he cut me off. "Don't argue. You give me the first inkling I'm not wasting my time with you, and then you throw it away. Why? Not because you felt pity for me, I hope." I shook my head. He sighed. "You can't fool me. I saw it in your eyes. I saw the boy who came here last year and was moved by Sesshu. Is that what you want to be? An artist? I told you then you could come back here and study and draw. Is that what you want?" I was disinclined to answer, but he waited until I did. A part of me might want it, but not yet. First, I have to carry out Shigeru's commands. Are you sure of that? Will you commit yourself to it with a whole heart? I heard the utter seriousness of his tone and answered in the same way. Yes, I will. You will be leading many men, some to their death. Are you sure enough of yourself to do that? If you have any weakness, Takeo, it is this. You feel too much pity. A warrior needs more than a dash of ruthlessness, of black blood. Many will die following you, and you will kill many yourself. Once you launch yourself on this path, you must pursue it to the end, You cannot check your attack or drop your guard because you feel pity for your opponent. I could feel the colour mounting to my face. I will not do it again. I did not mean to insult you. Forgive me. I'll forgive you if you can achieve that move again and follow it through. He took up the challenge position, his eyes fixed on mine. I had no qualms about meeting his gaze. He had never succumbed to the Kikuta sleep, and I had never tried to impose it on him. Nor did I ever intentionally use invisibility or the second self with him, though sometimes, in the heat of combat, I felt my image begin to slide away. His staff moved like lightning through the air. I stopped thinking then about anything except the opponent in front of me, and the thrust of the pole, the floor beneath our feet, the space around us that we filled almost like a dance. And twice more I came to the same point where I saw my dominance over him, and neither time did I fail to follow the move through. When we had finished, even Matsuda was glowing slightly, perhaps due to the spring weather. As we were wiping the sweat from our faces with towels Norio brought, he said, "I did not think you would ever make a swordsman, but you have done better than I expected. When you concentrate, you are not bad at all." I was speechless at such high praise. He laughed. "Don't let it go to your head. I'll meet you again later this afternoon. I hope you have prepared your study on strategy." "Yes, sir, but there is something else I need to talk to you about." "Something to do with Lady Shirakawa." "How did you know?" "I'd already heard that she was on her way to visit the temple. Arrangements have been made for her to stay in the women's guest house. It is a great honor for us. I will go and see her later today." It all sounded like casual chat about an ordinary guest, but I knew Matsuda well enough by now. He did nothing casually. I was afraid he would have the same misgivings about my marriage to Kaede that Makoto had voiced, but I had to tell him my intentions sooner or later. It's the second chat. Okay, I had to tell him my intentions sooner or later. All this flashed through my head in an instant, and then it occurred to me that if I should seek anyone's permission, it should be his. I fell to my knees and said, "I wish to marry Lady Shirakawa. May I have your permission, and may the ceremony be held here?" "Is that the reason she came here? Does she come with the permission of her family and clan?" "No, she came for a different purpose, to give thanks for recovering from an illness. But it was one of Lord Shigeru's last commands to me that I should marry her, and now fate seems to have brought her here to me." I heard a note of pleading in my voice. The abbot heard it too. Smiling, he said, "The problem is not going to be on your side, Takeo. For you it is the right thing to do. But for her to marry without approval from her clan, from Lord Arai. Be patient. Seek his permission. He was in favor of the marriage last year. There's every reason to think he still will be." I may be murdered at any moment, I exclaimed. I have no time to be patient. And there is someone else who wishes to marry her. Are they betrothed? There is nothing official, but apparently he has expectations of the marriage taking place. He is a nobleman. His estate lies alongside hers. Fujiwara, Matsuda said. You know him? I know who he is. Everyone does, apart from half-literates like you. It's a very suitable alliance. The estates will be joined. Fujiwara's son will inherit them both, and more importantly, since Fujiwara will almost certainly return to the capital soon, Arai will have a friend at court. Arai will not, because she will not marry Fujiwara. She will marry me before the end of the week. Between them they will crush you. His eyes were fixed on my face. Not if Arai thinks I can help him destroy the tribe. And when we marry, we will move at once to Maruyama. Lady Shirakawa is the legal heir to that domain, as well as to her father's. It will give me the resources I need to challenge the Otori. As a strategy, it's not bad, he said. But there are grave risks. You could completely antagonize Arai. I'd thought it better for you to serve under him for a while and learn the art of war. And you do not want to make an enemy of a man like Fujiwara. This move, for all its boldness, could destroy your hopes utterly. I don't want to see that happen. I want to see all of Shigeru's desires fulfilled. Is it worth the gamble? Nothing will prevent me from marrying her, I said in a low voice. You are infatuated with her. Don't let that affect your judgment. It's more than infatuation. She is my life, and I'm hers. He sighed. We all think that at some age about some woman or another. Believe me, it doesn't last. Lord Shigeru and Lady Maruyama loved each other deeply for years, I dared to say. Yes, well, it must be some madness in the Otori blood, he retorted, but his expression had softened and his eyes took on a musing look. It's true, he said finally. Their love did last, and it illuminated all their plans and hopes. If they had married and brought about the alliance they dreamed of between the Middle Country and the West, who knows what they might not have achieved. He reached down and patted me on the shoulder. It's as if their spirits have brought about a second chance in you and Lady Shirakawa. And I can't deny it. To make Maruyama your base makes a great deal of sense. For that reason, as much as for the sake of the dead, I will agree to this marriage. You may start making the necessary preparations. I've never been to this sort of wedding, I confessed, after I had bowed to the ground in gratitude. What needs to be done? The woman that came with her will know. Ask her. I hope I haven't reached my dotage, he added before dismissing me. It was nearly time for the midday meal. I went to wash and change my clothes. I dressed with care, putting on another of the silk robes with the Otori crest on the back that had been given to me when I arrived at Teruyama after my journey through the snow. I ate distractedly, hardly tasting the food, listening all the time for her arrival. Finally, I heard Kaede's voice outside the eating hall. I called to him, and he came in to join me. Lady Shirakawa is at the women's guest rooms, he said. 50 more men have come from Hagi. We'll billet them in the village. Gemba is arranging it. I'll see them tonight, I said, my heart lifting from both pieces of news. I left him eating and went back to my room, where I knelt at the writing table and took out the scrolls that the abbot had told me to read. I thought I would die of impatience before I saw Kaede again, but gradually I became absorbed in the art of war, the accounts of battles won and lost, strategy and tactics, the roles played by heaven and earth. The problem he had set me was how to take the town of Yamagata. It had been a theoretical problem, no more. Yamagata was still under the control of Arai through his interim governor, though there had been reports that the Otori planned to retake their former city and were assembling an army on their southern border near Suwano. Matsuda had intended to approach Arai on my behalf and make peace between us, whereupon I would serve Arai while pursuing the Otori inheritance. However, I was now acutely aware that if I risked inciting Arai's enmity anew by marrying Kaede, I might very well need to take Yamagata at once. It added a certain sense of reality to my studies of strategy. I knew the town so well. I'd explored every street. I'd climbed into the castle. And I knew the terrain around it, its mountains, valleys, hills and rivers. My main difficulty was having so few men at my command, 1,000 at most. Yamagata was a prosperous town, but the winter had been hard on everyone. If I attacked in early spring, could the castle withstand a long siege? Would diplomacy bring about a surrender where force would not? What advantages did I have over the defenders? While I was brooding over these problems, my thoughts turned to the outcast Joanne. I had said I would send for him in the spring, but I was still not sure if I wanted to. I could never forget the hungry, passionate look in his eyes, in the eyes of the boatman and the other outcasts. "He is your man now," Joanne had said of the boatman. "We all are." Could I add outcasts to my army? Or the farmers who came daily to pray and make offerings at Shigeru's grave? I had no doubt that I could count on these men if I wanted them. But was this what the warrior class did? I have never read of battles where farmers fought. Usually they stayed well clear of the combat, hating both sides equally, and afterwards stripping the dead impartially. As it often did, the face of the farmer I had murdered in his secret field in the hills behind Matsue floated before my mind's eye. I heard his voice call again, "Lord Shigeru." As much as anything else, I wanted to lay his ghost to rest. But he also brought into my mind the courage and determination of his fellows, resources that at the moment were wasted. If I used them, would he stop haunting me? The farmers in the Otori lands, both in the existing ones around Hagi, and those that had been ceded to the Tohan, Yamagata included, had loved Shigeru. They had already risen in fury after his death. I believed they would also support me, but I feared using them would weaken the loyalty of my warriors. Back to the theoretical problem of Yamagata. If I could get rid of the interim lieutenant Arai had placed in the castle, there was a much greater chance of the city surrendering without a long siege. What I needed was an assassin I could trust. The tribe had admitted I was the only person who could have climbed alone into Yamagata Castle, but it did not seem like a good scheme for the commander-in-chief to undertake. My thoughts began to drift a little, reminding me I'd hardly slept the night before. I wondered if I could train young boys and girls in the way the tribe trained them. They might not have innate skills, yet there was much that was simply a matter of teaching. I could see all the advantages of a network of spies. Might there not be some disaffected tribe members who could be persuaded to serve me? I put the thought away for the time being, but it was to return to me later. As the day warmed up, time slowed even more. Flies, woken from their winter sleep, were buzzing against the screens. I heard the first bush warbler calling from the forest, the glide of the swallow's wings and the snap of their beaks as they took insects. The sounds of the temple murmured around me, the tread of feet, the swish of robes, the rise and fall of chanting, the sudden clear note of a bell. A light breeze was blowing from the south, full of the fragrance of spring. Within a week, Kaede and I would be married. Life seemed to rise around me, embracing me with its vigour and energy. Yet I was kneeling here, wrapped in the study of war. And when Kaede and I met that evening, we did not talk of love, but of strategy. We had no need to talk of love. We were to be married. We were to become husband and wife. But if we were to live long enough to have children, we needed to act swiftly to consolidate our power. I had been right in my instinct. When Makoto first told me that she was raising an army, that Kaede would make a formidable ally. She agreed with me that we should go straight to Maruyama. She told me of her meeting with Sugita Haruki in the autumn. He was waiting to hear from her, and she suggested sending some of her men to the domain to let them know our intentions. I agreed and thought the younger of the Miyoshi brothers, Gemba, might go with them. We sent no messages to Inuyama. The less Arai knew of our plans, the better. Shizuka said, "Our marriage will enrage him," Kaede said. I knew it probably would. We should have known better. We should have been patient. Perhaps if we had approached Arai through the proper channels, through Kahei's aunt, or through Matsuda or Sugita, he would have decided in our favour. But we were both seized by a desperate sense of urgency, knowing how short our lives might be. And so we were married a few days later, before the shrine, in the shadow of the trees that surrounded Shigeru's grave, in accordance with his will, but in defiance of all the rules of our class. I suppose I might say, in our defence, that neither of us had had a typical upbringing. We had both escaped, for different reasons, the rigid training in obedience of most warriors' children. It gave us freedom to act as we pleased, but the elders of our class were to make us pay for it. The weather continued warm under the south wind. On our wedding day, the cherry blossoms were fully open, a mass of pink and white. Kaede's men had now been allowed to join mine, and the highest-ranking warrior among them, Amano Tenzo, spoke for her and on behalf of the Shirakawa clan. When Kaede was led forward by the shrine maiden, in the red and white robes Minami had somehow managed to find for her, she looked beautiful in a timeless way, as if she were a sacred being. I spoke my name as Otori Takeo, and name Shigeru and the Otori clan as my ancestors. We exchanged the ritual cups of wine 3 times thrice, and as the sacred branches were offered, a sudden gust of wind sent a snowstorm of petals down on us. It might have seemed a chilly omen, but that night, after the feasting and the celebrations, when we were finally alone together, we had no thoughts of omens. In Inuyama, we had made love in a sort of wild desperation, expecting to die before morning. But now, in the safety of Terayama, we had time to explore each other's bodies, to give and take pleasure slowly. And besides, since then, Yuki had taught me something of the art of love. We talked about our lives since we had been separated, especially about the child. We thought about its soul, launched again into the cycle of birth and death, and prayed for it. I told Kaede about my visit to Hagi and my flight through the snow. I did not tell her about Yuki, and she kept secrets from me, for though she told me a little about Lord Fujiwara, she did not go into details as to the pact they had made. I knew he had given her large amounts of money and food, and it worried me, for it made me think his views on the marriage were more fixed than hers. I felt a slight chill in my spine that may have been a premonition, but I put the thought away, for I wanted nothing to spoil my joy. I woke towards dawn to find her sleeping in my arms. Her skin was white, silky to my touch, both warm and cool at the same time. Her hair, so long and thick it covered us both like a shawl, smelled of jasmine. I had thought her like the flower on the high mountain, completely beyond my reach, but she was here. She was mine. The world stood still in the silent night as the realization sank in. The backs of my eyes stung as tears came. Heaven was benign. The gods loved me. They had given me Kaede. For a few days, heaven continued to smile on us, giving us gentle spring weather, every day sunny. Everyone at the temple seemed to be happy for us, from Manami, who beamed with delight when she brought us tea the first morning, to the abbot, who resumed my lessons, teasing me unmercifully as if he caught me yawning. Scores of people made the climb up the mountain to bring gifts and wish us well, just as the village people would have done in Mino. Only Makoto sounded a different note. "Make the most of your happiness," he said to me. "I am happy for you, believe me, but I fear it will not last." I already knew this. I had learned it from Shigeru. Death comes suddenly and life is fragile and brief, he had told me the day after he had saved my life in Mino. No one can alter this, either by prayers nor spells. It was the fragility of life that made it so precious. Our happiness was all the more intense for our awareness of how fleeting it might be. The cherry blossoms were already falling, the days lengthening as the season turned. The winter of preparation was over. Spring was giving way to summer, and summer was the season of war. 5 battles lay ahead of us, 4 to win and 1 to lose. The end. Yay. my goodness. They got married. That's going to piss off a lot of people.